Good morning, everyone. This is Dawn with Classy Designs by Dawn, and this is the official tutorial for my Adrift Crossbody Bag pattern. Nice vertical, large zip pocket. It does not end, it goes that way and that way, so it's very nice and large. Has a hidden slip pocket. This is a great scrap buster. The front can be made with multiple colorways, with your slip and your zip pocket inside. This is what we're going to be working on today. And today we're going to be working in cork fabric. So you may not see some of the interfacings and stabilizers you would typically see, but I have prepared my pieces. Strap connectors. I clip the bottom corners from the bottom bands, and the pieces that I am applying stabilizer to, have that applied. I use a combination of both the Decoville Light and EB Fuse, either medium or heavy. And then, of course, lining pieces, I'm using a cotton canvas, so not all the lining pieces need it. So we're ready to get started. All right, we are going to start with the bottom bands. I've already cut the corners out for boxed corners. And we're going to start with right sides together. And we're going to sew the bottom seam, 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now what I'm going to do is take my DST, I'm going to put it along the bottom edge there. Because you will notice that we did not apply the bottom stabilizer just yet. So that one there. And one on the second side. And what this is going to do is this is going to help hold this center seam open. GST is going to hold that open. So now what we're going to do is the Decoville is listed as needed in multiple size pieces. And that's because I found if you chop it into pieces, you can get a nicer fold. Because if you look at the bottom of this bag, there's actually a crease line right there. And that's because we actually split the stabilizers in our bottom. And this is how we did it. All right, I've gone ahead and marked my midpoint so I get this straight. And we're going to iron on the Decoville Light. And then our secondary smaller pieces, which in this instance I am using the EB Fuse, is I'm going to apply it right next to the Decoville Light, just like that, keeping it out of my seam allowances. And then I'm actually, once I've got all those adhered, I'm going to put SF 101 over all of it. So I'm going to go to the iron, apply my stabilizers, and I will be right back. Okay, here's what we have. You can see that the decal bell was in the beige color, so that's down the middle, and the other two pieces are right on the sides. The idea is that they don't overlap so that this will hold nicely when we're done. Now keep in mind this is cork, so the concept of folding is going to be a little looser because it's stiff. Now we're going to top stitch along both sides of our middle seam through everything. That will keep everything good and adhered and in place when we go and turn our bag towards the end. Okay, as you can see, we've got this top stitched both sides, and we are going to set this aside and start the next step. Okay, our next pieces we're going to need are the D and E and 7 inches of zipper tape with the zipper full installed. I've already put the DST, so we're ready to get started with the front vertical zipper. And we're going to start with the left-hand side. So we're going to, with your zipper pull going up when closed, so face down. The reason for the longer zipper is just to make it a little bit easier. 6.5 inches of zipper is not a lot to work with. So we just want to make sure that we've got plenty to get in the seams. Okay, so there we have that. And we're going to take the lining piece and we're going to sandwich the zipper between. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance through the 3 layers. All right, so now we have our zipper, and I'm going to go to the ironing board and I'm going to iron my lining to the back like this, so we have a nice crisp fold for top stitching. Be right back. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch along the side of the zipper through all layers. All right, there you have it, top stitched through all layers. Time for the other side of the zipper. So same thing again. Make sure our zipper is face down. And be sure to line up your pocket exterior. Okay. And again, we're going to sandwich the zipper with the lining. So again, just line everything up. And like I said, the most important thing is to make sure that your two exterior pieces are lined up so that when we open this up, we will have a nice solid pocket. And yes, you'll notice that the pocket, the bag is kind of angular in shape. We will trim that all down. It just made it so much easier. You don't have to worry about mirroring your cut pieces for your pattern pieces. It just made it so much easier to work in full rectangular pieces. So we're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance, stitch our zipper in. Okay, we've got the zipper, and I am going to go and press the lining again so that we have a nice seam, and you will and we'll top stitch the other side just like that. Okay, all top stitched both sides. Now we're just going to lay this on top of our F vertical pocket back lining piece, just like that. And we will also need the D-ring top band piece C. And what we're going to do, flip this around so you can see it. Going to center it. And then clip in place all layers. Just like that. Now, 1/4 inch seam allowance across that top through all layers. This will stitch the top of the zipper closed. Now we're going to just simply fold the D-ring band C up. Since most of the layers are on the vertical pocket section, we're just going to fold this up and we're going to top stitch on both sides of the zipper. Not both sides of the zipper, sorry. Both sides of the seam we just created. Okay, here I am just simply pulling my tails to the back. When I top stitched on the actual pocket, I stopped and restarted on the other side of the pocket instead of top stitching across the top of the pocket. Just my preference. You can do either. All right. Oops. Trim your tails. All right, so now you can see we've got top stitch both sides of that seam. I've stopped and started on either side of the zipper. The zipper is closed to the top, just like that. And time for the next step. Okay, strap connectors. This is just a piece of scrap that I had that was about the right width. Decal bill light down the middle, and DST down both edges. Fold it to the middle. The decal bill light gives you a nice crisp edge to fold against. Just like that. And you can see it was almost the right size. But a good way to use up your scraps again. And top stitch both sides. Okay, so we've got two 2-inch strap connectors. And I am actually going to put some DST in here. Just like that. Maybe. All right, thread your D-ring on, just like that. I'll fold it in half. And this is not a very big D-ring strap connector, so keep that in mind. All right, DST is not holding very well. It's only going in a 1/4-inch seam. One of the changes that is not actually written in the header that I kind of do recommend now at this point is an additional reinforcement rivet. All right, we're going to set one of these to the side. And this is our front. Okay, we're going to 1.5 inches in. Okay, just like that, 1.5 inches in from this raw end. Okay. The reason for placement on this right-hand side is because when we are going to pull our top zipper closed, it will be on this end. I don't want that hitting the strap on the front side of the bag. When we repeat this on the back sections, we will put the strap connector on the same right-hand side, looking at the front of the back pieces, and that way our strap connector will be on the other side. Okay, so we're going to just stabilize this with just a quick 1/8 inch little stitch to hold it in place. All right. Just like that, we have our strap connector connected. Okay, this now is the top zipper band, piece B, and with right sides together. And you can see that then I put a little bit of just SF101 just to keep it from stretching when we go to put that zipper in. Again, top zipper is going to see a bit of wear and tear. Basically just line it up just like that. And 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now we're going to fold this top zipper band down. That seam allowance we want down. Because basically, because at this point where the strap connector is, we want that to not have a funky bulge. So we're just going to fold the seam down. And keep in mind, the cork is being a little temperamental. Okay. I think I'm actually going to put a piece of DST there so that it will cooperate just a little bit better. Just a narrow piece of DST. All right, along that edge. I don't always do this, but sometimes when I'm trying to get a nicer fold, I don't have enough fingers. I don't have enough finger strength to hold everything where I want it. So DST is that extra set of fingers and hold power. You don't need to do it this way. The fork is just, it's not really agreeing with me, so I'm just going to use a little bit more encouragement to get my seam to go down like that. All right, just like that. Now we're only going to top stitch on the bottom side through that seam allowance that we just folded down. Okay, we're going to top stitch that just on this piece. All right, now we have the this strap connector is now stitched in with the placement stitch, then the seam stitch, and now the top stitch. That strap connector is not going anywhere. Okay. The spot where I recommend a rivet, but not at this point, because we need to be able to pull this away and out of the way when we go to put the top zipper in. So once we've got the top zipper in place, then we'll put that rivet in. But this is the one place, just so that when you're carrying the bag, the strap stays pulling upwards instead of outward. Just a personal thing. You do not have to do that. But like I said, that strap connector is stitched in 3 different times. It's not going to go anywhere. It is perfectly secure. If you used a woven, I probably would suggest making longer strap connectors and having strap connectors just so that they don't fray on you. Okay? So there's that. Next step is now to bring back our bottom piece, and we're going to center it because depending on how you did your seams, if you were not an exact 1/4 inch seam allowance on around your zipper, you may find your pieces are a little bit larger than what they should be. Okay, remember you want to clip all the layers together because our top part of our pocket has all been stitched together and closed up. Okay, so now we got to do this with the bottom. This will stitch the bottom zipper, so make sure your zipper pulls to the top. And we are going to stitch this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now we're going to, I think I'm going to do the same thing with the DST to get my seam to stay where I want it, which is to the back. Again, this is mostly because I am working with this thicker, less cooperative folding cork. You certainly do not need to do this with others, okay? And again, remember, just like with this top piece, we've got a couple pieces of lining there. We've got the zipper tape that's not going to fold well. So we're just going to fold this bottom over that seam, just like that. Just like that. Okay, got that going where I want it to go. Sometimes a little heat also helps get everything where I want it. And we are going to top stitch on both sides of the seam and stopping and starting where the zipper is, just like we did on the top edge. Top stitch along the bottom edge, and I'm going to top stitch along the other side. You get the idea. It's not the straightest that I would like. Like I said, the cork is just being quite temperamental. I should have thought that one through just a little bit better. All right. So this is the front of our bag with the front vertical zip pocket. Our zipper our pocket goes both ways. So it's a good size pocket, just like that. We're going to start, we're going to set this aside and we're going to start the back hidden pocket. Okay, I have here the second exterior D-ring strap. That's strip band. This is piece G. And because I didn't want to break up the floral print, this is one solid. If you choose to do multiple colors, or you like the look of the piece, as I have here, all you have to do is just piece, top stitch both sides, and you're right where I'm at. I just am not doing that seam. The one piece of lining, pieces of lining that I did interface were the eye hidden pocket linings. Just because of the structure needed, I interfaced them. Okay. So we've got 2 of those, got the back pocket exterior, and we're also going to be using the D-ring band. Okay, so on your pocket linings, I believe is what the number is, mark in your center point and a 1/2 inch from each end. And I mark the center point on the top edge of my back piece, G. Okay, stitch 1/4 inch between those 2 1/2 inch marks, and then snip through both layers right to that end stitch. Okay, do not get over aggressive with your snipping, just right there to the edge. I am going to use some DST here just to help motivate this cork to do what I want. What I'm going to do is go back to the ironing board, fold, hey bub. All right, I gotta say, this cork may not have been a good choice. Okay, just like that, right on that seam. Just like that, because we're gonna fold this, and I'm gonna go give this a good press so that I have a nice seam. Okay, just like that. And I will be right back after I iron this. Here are the pressed results. Nice crisp edge. The DST is helping big time. Now we're going to top stitch, but only from this point to this point, that folded edge. All right, so just along the folded edge, I'm going to go ahead and pull my thread ends to the back. All right, there we have our first chunk done. We're going to repeat this for the D-ring band and the second hidden pocket lining. To match up your center marks. Okay, and we're going to again stitch between our 1/2 inch point and our 1/2 inch point. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, again, just between the 1/2 inch points. Okay. We are not going to snip and we're not going to top stitch. You can. You most certainly can. I am going to give it a good press though, just to pull that lining down so it's in place the way we want it. And I will be right back. We now have our D-ring and pocket lining pressed, and right sides together. This your center back G to your D-ring band. Basically, we're going to line up our lining sides. Okay. And we're going to clip these two pieces together. And then go ahead and pull your lining, because remember, we didn't stitch all the way to the end. We stitched halfway in, a 1/2 inch in. Okay. Do that on both sides. We are now going to stitch from the end of the top band, the D-ring band, okay, to this point. So from here to here on both sides. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, do not catch your lining pieces in. Okay, we simply want to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance from this point to that point. Okay, now we want to be sure that our linings are butted up really nice and tight. Okay, and be sure to backstitch at that inner point. Okay, you can see where we have stitched. From that snip point to here, we did not catch either piece of our lining. We're going to repeat for the second side. But this is our goal. And what we're going to do is top stitch from where we stopped or started, depending on which end you're on, to the end. We're just basically going to finish top stitching the front edge. Okay? Depending on how much issue, and right now I am having a little bit of issue here. Figure out how you want to lay that lining corner in there. It doesn't make a difference if you catch it or if you don't. Just make sure that you can get top stitched nicely to the edge. Okay, you can see where we ended, matched up with our previous top stitching. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull, maybe. Who doesn't want to pull? So never mind, we aren't pulling. snipper talons. You can see that I actually pull my pocket lining corner out of the way just because it created quite a bit of bulk right there. And my machine wasn't cooperating well. Okay, so once trimmed, I'm going to repeat with the other side. Okay, we have both sides completed now. We have one, what looks like continuous piece of top stitching across the top. And now we're going to stitch our pocket lining closed. And now this is a little tricky because we want to make sure that we're not distorting this top edge. We want this to lay nice. That's what creates that hidden pocket look. All right, fresh bobbin, fresh battery, moving forward. What I literally did was just stitched it in 3 pieces. 1/2 inch seam allowance to one side. So I find that sewing from this open end up gets me closer to this top point. And so I just stitched each side 1/2 inch and then closed up the bottom of the pocket. And we have our finished hidden pocket. I'm also going to go and I am going to actually add a rivet right at this point, just for security purposes. I don't want this to get stretched or just wonky out of shape. So I'm going to put a rivet on each corner of my hidden pocket. It won't interfere with how the pocket works. I just happen to like the way it looks. Okay, so I will be right back and we'll move on to attach the second strap connector and the top zipper band. Okay, as you can see, I have 2 rivets. And now we need to position our second strap connector. And we're still going to put it on the right-hand side and 1.5 inches in. All right, and we are going to go ahead and stitch at an 1/8 inch so that we don't have any move. All right, we've got that stitched there, and I want to show you. Okay, here's where this one is. And then this is where this is going to sit once we sew this together. And so our D-ring is on the opposite side. Okay, so just verify your D-rings are going to be on the opposite side, just like that. And so with our second, zipper top band, we are going to just match up the pieces again. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And just like that, we have our strap connector and D-ring in place. I'm going to go ahead with the DST like I did the first time. Again, just motivating my cork fabric to do what I want it to do and not what it wants it to do. Yes, it does put DST into your top stitching line. Just keep in mind, clean your needle. You can see when your machine skips. If it's going to skip, just back it up. Just really watch what your machine is doing, what your needle is doing. You can see it. Most of the time up in the tensions, you'll see almost like a bubble of when the fabric the thread and the needle they're not meshing right. You can see it. Just be watching for it. All right, just like that. And now we're going to top stitch, just like we did on the front. Below that seam. Because again, we would not get a good top stitch. We would not get a good top stitch at the strap connector trying to go over that. So don't even bother. You would not be happy with the results. All right, we've got the top stitched, and as you can see, it's really hard when trying to get your foot to start heading up the bulk of the strap connector. And if we tried to do that over here, we really would have a moopy mess. So, because we didn't top stitch the other side, it looks even and planned, which it is. Okay, I'm actually going to apply a metal tag. And once I have that in place, I will be right back. Okay, tags installed, center. Now we're going to attach this bed, and we're not going to catch our pocket bottom. Okay, so line up right sides together. Just like that. And 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. As you can see, sort of. Not a very large viewing area for the camera. And front, back, and everything also together. That's kind of large. Going to, you can fold the seam either way. I think the print cork is a little thinner. So I'm actually going to fold the center back up over the seam and top stitch both sides of the seam. And the reason being, when we put these two front to back and do the side seams, our points right here will actually nest together. And so it will eliminate a small amount of bulk, especially if you're using a domestic machine. I'll explain that better when we get to that point. but I need to run and grab another roll of narrow DST to hold that in place, and I will be back to show you the tap stitching. And there we have it. We have both sides of the seam tap stitched, just like we have both sides of that seam top stitched, both sides of that seam top stitched, both sides of this seam top stitched, top of the zipper. This is only single, and the hidden pocket, just like that. Next, we're going to work on some lining. Okay, before we move on to the lining, I have marked my sides. And basically just take a straight edge from your point out here on your bottom band cutouts up to this point here. Just draw a straight line. That's all we're going to do, straight line. Do that on all 4 points and trim away. Obviously, you see we're going to trim away a little bit of this pocket here. So just trim that away, and that will give you the shape of your bag. Now, onto the lining. All right, first up in the lining, we are going to do the slip pocket. And with right sides together, we want to fold our L in half so that it is 10 wide by 6 tall. 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, both sides seam stitched. We're going to snip the corners. Just like that. Careful not to snip too tight into the corner. Here's what we have. Now we're going to head to the ironing board, flip it right side out, and give it a really good press, making sure to push our corners out nicely. Here we have a nice fresh press. We're going to baste across the top open edge, where all these little fuzzies are, 1/4 inch, just to close up the edge. Just like that. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to give this a nice fresh trim just so it's good and even. And I've removed all those little fuzzies. Just like that. Going to add some DST to my slip pocket accent. Okay. Full stop. And I'm going to draw a line down the center of that exit piece. Just like that. Kind of hard to see the silver on the black, but it's there. Okay. Going to pull away the DSTs, and we're going to lay our pocket raw edge that we just trimmed right up next to. You want to be able to still see that center line. And you're kind of going to have to take my word for it because it's really going to be hard to see. You can just barely still see my line. Remove the second piece of DST and roll the edge over, making sure nothing moved. Just like that. Okay, and this is going to be a bugger with the cork being uncooperative. So we're going to be using both the DST and a bunch of clips. And we're going to top stitch right along this edge. You want to make sure that your front and back are close to lined up, or a little bit more on the back, just so that you verify you catch both the front and the back of your accent piece. Here we have top stitched in the back. We definitely caught our back sides. We're going to trim with a nice sharp scissors right next to the edge so that it's flush on the side edge of the pocket, just like that. One of your K pieces, your main lining piece. Okay. We're going to go 1.5 inches down. And we're going to center. We're going to pin in place. And now we're going to stitch down, across, and back up. And I also like to divide my pocket in half so that I don't lose my pins in the bottom of my pocket. And here you see, sewn around. I'm going to go put a rivet at the top of each stitch line, just kind of for decorative purposes. Yes, it does kind of hold the top band a little bit nicer. And I like the look of the rivets. So I will install the rivets and be right back. Here we have our slip pocket finished. You see the rivets stitched around, and don't forget to mark and cut out your bottom corners as the directions call for boxing the bottom corners of your lining. Okay, now let's move on to the interior lining zipper pocket. here we have the second K-piece. Time for our zipper pocket for the lining. I have the zipper overlay with 2 strips of DST, and we are going to take one of the sides of the DST off, and we are going to go 1 inch down from the top of our main lining. And we're going to center it like that. Get the one side down, and then do the second side. Being sure to make 100% positive that our middle zipper area is not all wonky. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch around the outer edge. All right, we're going to pull our thread trails to the back. And there you go. Top stitched all the way around. Next, we need to cut out the center. So I make a snip. And then when I cut, I am always holding on to the edge of the overlay so that I don't snip it. Because once we start cutting into this, it would be really, really difficult to try and redo that if we damaged the overlay. So just take your time. This is how I choose to do it. There's no wrong or right way to do it. Just like that. And I'm going to put DST right along the edge, the open edge of the center of the overlay to prepare for the zipper installation. Okay, next we need 10 inches of zipper tape with a pull installed and piece 9, which is your zipper pocket lining. We are going to line up the zipper face up on the face up lining and line up this top edge of the zipper tape to the top end 10-inch width edge of the fabric. and stitch 1/4 inch. All right, 1/4 inch. Now we're going to pull it to the opposite side and repeat the process with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like that. Remember to keep your zipper pull out of your sewing area so that you do not get a wonky, wavy zipper. All right, quick, easy peasy stuff. Now, with our zipper pull closing towards the left, this is the left hand side of our lining. Okay, we're going to peel off the GST. Like that. And now we're going to center our zipper under our overlay. What I like to do is figure out, okay, where is it nice and centered, and kind of pick out a grain line on your zipper tape. And keep it lined up with that grain line. Some zipper tapes are easier to see than others. But just like that, we have our zipper fairly lined up. Just keep fiddling with it till you're happy with it. Okay, this is what it looks like on the back side. We're going to pull this up like that, and we're going to stitch just across the bottom, and we're going to start and stop an 1/8 inch, or our width of our top stitching distance from the edge, just across the bottom. Okay, you see where that second line of stitching went. Going to pull my threads to the back and tie them on. All right, top stitch just along the bottom, and you can see we went past on both sides. I'm going to take this to the ironing board real quick, and I am going to iron this to the bottom. I find that that keeps that bottom edge of that pocket nicer, so I don't need to worry about getting a flap of pocket lining in front of my zipper. All right, all pressed. Now we're going to top stitch from that stitch point up, across, and back to that stitch point. Making sure our pocket is going in the right direction. And remember to stop and start the end stitch point. Okay, you can see how we've done this. I am going to repeat the old thread to the back and tie it off. That way you cannot tell you stopped and started. You're stitching from the front side. All right, top stitched zipper overlay. Now we are going to pull the lining up through the bottom of this pocket to stitch it closed so that we don't have to birth the bag. I do this whenever I can. It's just so much easier. So I cut open the bottom of the pocket, and now I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides. You can tell I've got more pocket over here than I do over here, but there's obviously well over 1/2 inch there. We're all good. There's your second main lining with the zipper pocket installed. Now make sure, if you haven't already, cut your corners in your lining. And we will next be attaching the J's, your lining top band, to the top of our main linings with the pockets. You're basically going to center these across the top. And the reason why I have these as made out of the exterior material is because when you have the top of the bag, especially on this open end, I don't like to see lining peek here when I don't have lining anywhere else showing out. So I just like to see it as the exterior. It's just my personal preference. I just think it looks a little more professional that way. But we're going to match up our center point on the J to a center point on our linings. And be sure to cut your corners out. I have matched up, centered my J to the top of my main lining with the pocket. And I'm going to stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just like that. I am going to go give this a press. And just go ahead, since the cork is definitely much thicker than the canvas lining, I'm going to press the seam down. And then I'm going to top stitch on both sides of the line, the seam line. And be right back after being at the iron. Top stitch time. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to top stitch both sides of our seam allowance. I do find it is easiest to start and do the first line over the seam allowance so that you're kind of stitching that seam allowance in place. first line's done. Now for the second one. Okay, second line done. Not super straight. Repeat for the second piece of your lining. All right, now we're going to iron and top stitch. Be right back. Now we have both of our top bands top stitched, all our corners cut out. Now we need to go ahead and trim these down. And we're simply going to take a straight edge and a pen. And those rivets are in the way. Just like that. From the bottom point to the seam. Just like that. Trim it off, both pieces. Next, we're moving on to finish it up. So I've got 2 of your main linings, each with a pocket. I've installed a personal name tag. My corners are cut out as per the instructions. My exterior is complete, and my sides have been trimmed, again, as instructed in the directions. And then I also have 15 inches of zipper tape with a pull, and my zipper end of choice is a metal one. I'm going to install it on what would be the closed end. And we're ready to pull everything together. So let me get the end on my zipper and we'll move forward. Okay, zipper installed. Zipper end installed, full installed. We're going to now open this up. And I'm going to turn the ends at 90 degrees. And you can use whatever method you like. I got this little stapler that works well. Just like that. Now I pull my zipper all the way closed. I'm going to mark one inch on this side. Okay, which is the right hand side of your bag. And I'm going to mark 3/4 inch on the left hand top edge. Just like that. And now I'm going to put DST between those 2 marks. I'm going to repeat for the other side, and I am making sure to fold my D-rings down and out of the way. So I need to make sure this side is the 3/4 inch to match that. And this is the 1 inch to match this side. And again, Simply putting on the DST to start with. Okay, back to working with the front. With right sides together, your zipper tape to the right side of your top edge. We are going to use the DST to attach our zipper. And we are going to start this fold right at that 1 inch mark. And I'm going to put this DST right from the end up to that 1 inch point. And the reason why we're doing the 1 inch point on this zipper tail end is we want the zipper to pull out of the seam. As you can see here, it pulls out of the seam on both sides so that this kind of hangs free. You hold on to that tail end to pull your zipper closed. On the front end, this will close like that. And it just, instead of having two tails, if you put tabs into the seam, it actually limits the opening of your bag. So it's real easy to do, but you got to make sure you keep this tail free so that when you're sewing, you can pull it out of your seam. We're still going to sew all the way to the end to end, but we're not going to sew the zipper in all the way. So just like that. And you can see that tail pulls out. I am going to transfer my silver mark at my that 1 inch mark. We're going to sew this at 1/4 inch seam allowance through all layers. And I'm going to actually stop with my needle in when I get to that 1 inch mark. Okay, so let's stitch to that point. Okay, I have stopped with my needle in. I'm going to lift up my foot. Now you'll notice I pulled my D-ring completely out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing with my zipper end. I'm going to pull it out of the seam. I'm going to drop my foot back down. I'm going to continue to hold my zipper so it's not going to get stitched in and stitch to the end. Just like that. Here we have stitched. And as you can see, there's 1/2 inch-ish or so there. The since we didn't bring that out at a pleated 90-degree angle, the The zipper is still on the seam for a small amount of, that's why we do the inch. But we have our zipper in and pull it shut. Pull the other half of our exterior up, just so we make sure we do not get our zipper all twisted when we go to officially. And repeat what we did for the other side. So starting our zipper at that mark right there. Lining up that raw edge with zipper tape. And our zipper is still right sides together with the exterior. Just like that. It spins around. Now we're going to add the second piece of lining to sandwich the zipper in and stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, we've got that kind of stuck together here where the GSG is cooperating anyways. Now, I want to do it the same way I did the last time, is get to this point, stop, pull my foot up, pull my zipper out of the seam allowance. So I am going to start at the same end of I did with the other half. So I'm starting on the open end of the zipper. It just works a little bit easier, but keep in mind, you are going to have a bit of bulk. Okay, so just keep all the layers you do not want stitched free and clear of your stitching zone. Just go slow, 1/4 inch seam allowance so that you keep what you don't want sewn out of the way, what you do want sewn together. Right, remember we're stopping at that point where our 1 inch mark is. We are pulling our zipper out of our seam, but your needle's down, so you're not pulling it weirdly with the stitching. Now finish sewing to the end. And here's our second side. Did the same thing, held it out of the seam. We've got a loose tail. I'm going to pull my zipper closed, make sure everything's stitched without twisting. Now, we are going to start matching up our sides from the exterior and the lining. We want to obviously match our bottom bands, our seams here, definitely want to make sure that your zipper, the seam with the zipper matches, as well as the bands on your lining. It's your choice how you want to verify this all fits nicely. I am a fan of nesting my seams. I think they hold themselves together just a little bit better. So I am going to actually, because this seam is as important as it is, I'm going to give it a couple little staples. Okay, just a couple of little staples out of the seam allowance. Now you will see here our front vertical pocket, the seam went up, and on the back hidden pocket, the seam went down. So those seams nest together really nicely. Same thing at the bottom. You will see how those two seams butt up right together. They're going to hold each other in place. Less slippage and everything, just like that. And we've got, that seam matches. Okay, remember when you're doing your vertical seam pockets, that front, you want to make sure all your layers are in there correctly. Matching up my band seam there on my lining. Just like that. And we're going to sew this side seam at a 1/2 inch. Now, side note, on the pattern, it does say you have a choice. Which way you want to do your D-rings. I put mine in the top, but you certainly do not have to. There's a reason why the band right above the wider center that I have with the printed cork is called the D-ring band. Not only does it attach the D-ring here, but you can choose to put your D-rings in the side seam if you prefer. And if you want to do that, when you do this step, you want to fold it in half with your D-ring on there and then center that in place in that D-ring band. Okay? Not a lot of difference. It is totally preference which way you prefer. Okay? And I'm actually going to do this side first. This zipper is a little awkward to work around. And so I just found this side was easier to do first rather than, as you can verify once you get it stitched, are all your seams matching up nice. And it's easier to reach in there and move your zipper end to make sure your zipper end does not get caught. Okay? And it's a little less awkward if you unzip your zipper. Having the two coils zipped up together makes it a little more unruly, I think. Okay, so we've got that. See that. And now we are going to stitch from the bottom edge to this bottom edge, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and we are stitching through all of the layers around that vertical pocket linings. Okay, so you can see we're going to stitch 1/2 inch. As you're stitching, make sure that your seam points that need to match stay matching. Okay, now technically this is a corner, so to speak. It's not a hard corner, just ease yourself up. Matching up your points. Just give things a little tug. Okay, as you can see, if you open this up, this is why we did the zip tail end first. You can look in there and you can see, okay, that bottom seems good. That seems good. Yep. Zippers out. That seems good. And once we verified all these points line up nice, now we can match up the other side and stitch that at our 1/2 inch seam allowance. And quick note, I will actually remove the staples before I trim the seam down, just because, yes, I have stitched I have snipped through a staple with my good scissors. Not cool. Quick, easy way to remove them. Of course, if I try and do it on camera, it's not going to show easy. Slide your seam ripper in there and twist. Easy peasy, except I dropped it. I don't know where it is. Again, slide your seam ripper in, twist. Just like that. You've got your staples out. And you don't have to worry about snipping those through those staples with your good scissors. Okay, I have stitched both side seams and double checked that my seams were lined up the way I wanted them, and I have trimmed down my seams. Now we're going to box our bottom corner of our bag. This is a little awkward again because cork is probably going to fight me all the way. But that's all right. We'll get it. So what you want to do is fold your bag across the corner. And what's important here is you want that center seam of your bottom to be lined up with the seam of your side. Okay? And so just squish it really well. Okay? Now we're going to stitch across this corner at 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, there we have it. Now you'll notice that my curves just a little bit. I don't think you notice that too much. And my seams are pretty closely lined up. What you'll notice here is that my side seams, the fabric naturally wants to, on the side seams, come lower on that bottom edge than what you think it probably should. But what it's actually doing is straightening out this edge. So up to a 1/2 inch is highly probable. Kind of like, you see, this is how that corner is just, it's telling me what it wants to do. Okay. And in letting it go ahead and just do it that way, that side will be straighter up and down. Okay, so I'm not gonna fight what the fabric wants to do. Sometimes the fabric does know better than us, and we fight it too much. So we're going to do this second side. Sometimes I get the seams open, sometimes I do not get the seam open. It just sometimes depends on what the fabric wants to do, and I don't have the finger strength to always fight it, so. All right, that one got a lot nicer straight across. I don't think my seams match quite as well as I'd like them to, but I am good with that for now. So I trim off that box corner. And now it's time to flip this inside out. So I'm going to turn this inside out off camera because it's just going to be a little bit of a bugger to do that. So I'll be right back. All right, we have our bag turned so we see the right sides of all the fabric. You could see why when we pieced our bottom stabilizers, the Decibel light was separate from the two strips, smaller strips, narrower strips on the bottom band, that we actually have somewhat of a crease. Obviously, this is cork. Again, it just is going to be a little less foldable, pliable. The purple cork is a lot heavier actually than the print. And you can see, here's what our corners look like. Our points all add up nicely. You can also see that our bag's a little top heavy, but our sides come down nicely. Now what I'm going to do is push the lining in at this top edge where our top zipper is. And I'm going to manipulate it until I am happy with the way it's laying in place. You can certainly add some DST or even glue to get your top edge seems to really cooperate here. Because what we want to do now on another pattern, this similar chop for domestic machines, what I did was had you top stitch this flat before we stitched the side seams. And you just top stitched through the front and all of the seam allowance. The lining did not get top stitched in place. I'm actually, because this is cork and that cork is going to, on the exterior fabric, the top band, it's not going to cooperate with me very well if I don't top stitch through everything. So I'm not going to try and do that on camera just because I'm going to be fiddling, fighting, maneuvering, wiggling, and that just is going to take up way too much time and I won't be able to leave the whole thing in anyways. So I'm just going to keep maneuvering this around. I may go in and actually add some DST to my top edge, but I'm going to start at the zipper tail end. Get this in the camera view area better. I'm going to start at the zipper tail end, okay, and I'm going to top stitch all the way around and end and start in the same place. So I'm just gonna play with this until I'm happy with it, and then I'm gonna top stitch it. Now, a word about top stitching. It is exactly what it says it is. Top stitching, usually from the top. But I really do not want to flip my bag inside out yet again because my machine here is a flatbed. I don't have an open arm. I don't have a cylinder arm. And I don't want to turn my bag again. That's going to get a little rough on the cork. And I do not want to risk damaging it. We've got a lot of zipper hardware that could scratch and ding and stuff. So typically when I hear the word top stitch, I expect it to be done from the top, but I'm actually going to do it from the inside. My machine actually sews nicely from both sides, so I think I can get away with it. But do it the best, the way you can get the best results. Okay? Even though, yes, when I hear top stitching, I do expect it from the top. There really isn't a right or wrong. Just do it the best way you can. Find your best way. Not necessarily does it have to be the same way I do it best. It's your best way. Okay? So I'm going to keep fiddling with this and I'll be back to show you the finished top stitching. All right. So did you get your workout with me? That is quite a challenge to do, but we have it top stitched through all layers. Cut all the way around the back, all the way around the top. It's a little thick right here, which is why, you know, if you have a domestic and you absolutely cannot do it, check out my Lotus Blossom crossbody video. It showed how to not tap stitch through all of it and keep it a lot more domestic friendly. Obviously, using the cork also meant it wasn't quite as domestic friendly as typical. Now, I am going to add a rivet. And I am trying to decide if I want to just go ahead and rivet through everything. Because I can pull my lining out since I'm all top stitched. I can pull my lining out and just rivet through this. I'll just put my rivet right there in the middle, just so that my strap doesn't do this when carrying it. So that's my next step before I close up the bottom through the pocket. So I'm going to decide on how I'm going to do the rivets, and I will be right back. Shove this all back in. I decided to go with putting the rivets on the inside and not all the way through. But like I said, it really is personal preference. This one happens to have the rivets through. I mean, it's really not a big deal. Again, it's on the inside of your bag. This one is more of faux leather, so I mean it's super supple, super easy to do this, and just simply went through all layers. This one, I simply pulled my lining back out, maneuvered my bag in a way so that I could get in there, and it is now time to close up the bottom. So I am reaching in through that zipper pocket, and I am looking for, okay, there's one pocket piece, and there's the other. Okay, so these are the main lining pieces. Here's the side seam. Okay, you see these are the two pockets. I am going to stitch this bottom 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then go ahead and trim it down. Okay, there we have the bottom seam sewn and trimmed. Now we're going to maybe pull these corners. Now a hint to getting your box corners more square is to make sure your seams, your side seam and your bottom seam, are lined up. So on my lining, I pulled the seam one way, and then the seam on the bottom one way, and the seam on the side the other way. As you can see, they nest against each other. I can feel when they're nice and snug. And I'm going to sew across this corner at a 1/2 inch. All right, and there we have that. I'm going to trim that down and repeat for the other side. And there's, we now have 2 boxed bottom corners. We're going to shove that back in through our pocket. And shove that down in the bag. And now I am going to go to the ironing board. This is the inside of my zipper pocket. I'm going to fold this in roughly 1/2 inch. Press it nice, so like that, so I can stitch the bottom of my pocket post. I do not hand stitch, period. Not my thing. So I just stitch across the bottom with a narrow seam line right next to the folded edges. But it helps immensely if you iron that bottom well. Okay, so I'm going to go iron and stitch, and I will be back. All right, and there we have it. Bottom of our pocket is closed. We can shove that down in our bag. Open the corners down in well. If you look at it, most store-bought bags, there is a seam somewhere that they do that some same way of closing something up. A lot of times you'll notice if you look close, the actual bottom of the seam of the lining is done that way. I don't like to see it there unless I don't have another choice. For to have it in the bottom of my pocket, zipper pocket, just cause most of the time that's my change pocket. So the nickels, dimes, and quarters don't really care. Okay, so our main bag is finished. Zipper, all our rivets are in place. All right, so the next step is the strap. I am going to do a two-tone. So 2 halves. Of course, any strap of your favorite is, of course, your best choice. If it's your favorite, go with it. This is 1 inch. Going to be a 1 inch two-tone strap. So these are cut 2 inch wide width of my fabric. So I'm not even sure how long that is. I am going to go apply a just shy of 1 inch wide stabilizer to the inside of one of these. We don't need it for both. That will start getting pretty thick. For getting through your hardware and stuff. So I'm going to go back to the iron. I, as a teen, worked in a dry cleaners, and so the iron is my friend. It always has been my friend, despite the scorched thumbs and burns. The iron is your friend. Learn to use it. Learn to love it. Be amazed at what a good press will do. Anything. So I'm going to go put stabilizer on, and we'll get ready to complete the strap. I have prepared both strips, one with stabilizer, both strips with DST along both edges. And now I'm going to fold them in half. Basically fold to the middle like this. And I'm sure it's going to require some clips to hold it all in place, and do that with both so that I'm ready to then top stitch both sides with them right sides out. I will be back once I have got these all folded and prepared, ready for top stitching. Okay, I have both sides prepared. I have my guides on my bed of my machine set up to make top stitching easier. I am matching those folded ends in, and I'm going to top stitch down both sides. Okay, let's get our straps put together. I have top stitched both sides, trimmed off my ends so that they're straight, and I have started by picking one end and threading it on a strap slide adjuster, and I have punched a hole, and this is what your rivets look like when you have opened them upside down at least once. So it's fun. Now you just gotta hunt and peck until you find what you're looking for. All right, let's not dump those over again. I am going to put strap ends on. I just like the look of them. It just gives such a nice finished, polished look. So I use cam snap press. I punch holes with a Japanese ratchet punch. And keep in mind when you're punching holes, these things get sticky. And usually it's not so much that they need to be sharpened, they need to be cleaned out. So keep that in mind. I'm going to just set this rivet real quick. Just like that. Believe it or not, you don't need to hire the Hulk to get that rivet in place. You can feel when they snap or compress together. That's all you need. You do not need to press and press and press and press and press. In fact, I have really tried to make it a point that I only press until I feel it kind of suddenly. It's not really a snap, but it's a snap. You can tell they just snap together. And so I'm going to put this, and it's going to be a snug fit, just like that. Now with all my little itty bitty screws, I don't glue my screws in. And I'm sure some of you are going to go, oh, they're going to fall out. I have yet to have that happen. So, Do it your way. My way is I don't have time for glue. You know, I have not had an issue. So, I'm going to get this strap connector in place with the little itty bitty screws, and I will be right back. All right, got the strap end on. I have threaded on a swivel hook, just like that. Now we need to thread it that way. And this is a little bit, this cork is pretty thick. So this is going to be one snug slider, meaning it probably isn't going to get adjusted much. But that's okay. I'd rather have it good and snug than sliding all over the place and suddenly I have a strap that everything's at the ends and I now have my bag at my ankles. So I'm going to thread that. Now I put one there and I folded it over roughly 1.5 inches. I'm going to repeat that for this piece, install the rivet and the strap end. And I will be right back. Okay, and there you have it. Your Adrift Crossbody handbag is complete. It's a great functional size. It really is a great scrap buster with all the different pieces. Here is a red and black one. Here's an example of the strap connectors to the sides. Double rivet, single rivets, nice big zipper pulls. What do you want to highlight? This one, of course, I've been showing previously. It's all one color, simple, sleek. Of course, the 2-color and just a different combination. I didn't split the pocket. You certainly can split the pocket and still have it all one color. Or really have fun and multiple colors. It just depends on how you want to express your individuality. In this one, I didn't even put the rivets on the back. Probably because I didn't have that many in the bronze. But again, great way to show off your favorite zipper pulls, your favorite vinyls, fabrics that you only have a little bit left, but you don't know what to do with it. Well, there's some patches here that you can, definitely make an individuality statement. So have fun with it. Thank you for joining me. Stay tuned for more videos coming in the future.